Hi everyone, and welcome to the Hollywood Actors Guide to Surviving the Film and TV Industry. This is your host, Jennifer Lynn Warren, living here in Hollywood, California. What's up everyone? Today we are going to start with a listener question from Sean Frost. So I'm going to have to break this down for our listeners a little bit, Sean, because you do refer to some things that is directed to me, but I want to make sure everyone's all on the same page here. You say, hi, Jennifer. Oh, hi, Sean. So I am listening to you and Pruitt. He's referencing Emmy Award-winning actor Pruitt Taylor Vince, who's a dear friend of mine. You guys would know him, like he was on Bird Box and Constantine. He's Stranger Things, Walking Dead. He's been on everything. On Damn Dirty Geeks, and Damn Dirty Geeks is a podcast that Pruitt and I got to be interviewed on, and it's run by a friend of mine, Frank Dietz. Hey, Frank, I know you're listening. And reading your book. Thank you so much for reading my book, Sean. For those of you who don't know, you can find my book on Amazon at The Hollywood Actors Guide of Surviving the Film and TV Industry. And this question has bothered me and perhaps other actors for some time. How do you stop worrying about saying the wrong thing in Hollywood and sort of getting painted with a sort of incompetence paintbrush? Is it just to speak from your heart the best way you know how, admit when you're wrong? Like when I asked about the character for the audition you had and you corrected me. Thank you, by the way, for caring enough to do that, and then sort of let the chips fall where they may. That's a great question. And what he's referring to about me correcting him, he asked me, I vague booked about an audition I had, which is very rare. It has to be like a really interesting character, something abnormal for me to do it. But of course, I'm not going to say what I'm auditioning for because that could cost me the role. You guys never do that. In fact, even posting about an audition is saying, hey, I got a job interview. And that alone does look a bit amateur, not a bit amateur. It looks very amateur. So I'm aware even when I do it occasionally, I know I'm coming off that way as well. But sometimes you just get so excited and you really can't help it. You know what I'm saying? You guys know what I'm saying. So listen, when you're talking to other people in the industry, I really feel like honesty is the best thing that you can do. It really is. There are a few times that you're going to have to fake your way through a couple things, but I do think that those times are more rare than just like if you're talking to, let's say you went to a party and you met Quentin Tarantino and he's talking about filmmaking and how hard it is to be a director. If you, Sean Frost, who I'm going to assume you're an actor and you haven't directed anything, and you just start butting in the conversation, be like, oh yeah, man, I hate working with that camera, yada, yada, yada. Like all you're going to do is shoot yourself in the foot because he's going to find you out and he's going to sniff it out of what you know and what you don't know. So I told you guys before that when you're networking, people like to talk about themselves. So it's a great opportunity when you're talking to an industry professional and they obviously know more than what you do. Just start asking them questions. Start asking them personal questions, like not too personal, but you know what I mean? Like, oh, really? How did you get involved with that film? Blah, blah, blah. Like, make them talk. And then suddenly you're going to be the student and the recipient of all of their knowledge. You are literally getting a free class in whatever it is that they know more about than you do. And so many actors just want to sit there and sell themselves and they want to be the one talking. And that's why everybody hates actors, because all we do is we just want to talk about ourselves, when you're going to work more and you're going to make more connections when you let the other person talk. So if they ask you a direct question that completely stumps you, if they're like, hey, did you see that new Ryan Murphy show that Jessica Lange is on about the 1%? You can be like, oh man, I'm so behind on reading The Hollywood Reporter. What's it about? I actually haven't heard about it. Like you can BS your way a little bit like that, and you should be reading The Hollywood Reporter. And that is an article that is out. I think it's out today because I read it today. So I'm going to assume it was today's article. Get them, be like, no, oh God, no, I'm a little bit behind. I've been so busy. What is it about? And that gives them a chance to start talking, which is what everybody likes to do. They like to be the one talking. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between TV and film. both with auditions and just how they are designed. So TV tends to have a bit more spine. And what I mean by that, it's less moment to moment, and it has more to do with the actual arc of the plot that's going on, right? A lot of times TV it's changing lately, but a lot of times TV is very short. You only have a short amount of time to get that plot across. And so you're not worried about developing the character too much, because as a writer, you are hoping to have season upon season upon season upon season to develop those characters and give them their own moment, right? So you're not worried about that. You're worried about getting the plot and getting your audience hooked, right? Whereas a film is cinematic. And so it's like a moment that is it's sustained over time with these little other moments to moments that are moving us into the characters. And so why this can be really important when you're auditioning sometimes, and I would argue there are television shows that are being shot cinematically these days. I would argue Handmaid's Tale is one of them. Game of Thrones certainly was some of them, or one of them, I should say. So when you're going into an audition for TV or you're going in for film, it's good to know the place of your character, right? You never want to upstage the series regulars who already have the gig. You should know if you're the waitress just bringing the coffee, then you should just be the waitress bringing the coffee. But I would say for the most part, when you're going in for a quote small role, and there are no small roles, only small actors, Stanislavski said that. If you're going in for a small role for TV, a lot of times that role is simply there to move the plot forward, whereas a small role in a film tends to be there maybe to move the plot forward, but usually in a way that emotionally impacts the character. And I think that's why instinctually actors tend to gravitate more towards film than they do TV. It's because even with the smaller roles, they tend to be meatier than on television. A lot of times we throw away characters on TV just to get the plot out there, whereas a feature film is always going to be tedious and very specific on every single character that they choose to put in there, and it can be more rewarding for you as an actor. Okay, kids, one more thing about auditions. And the thing is, I had a friend of mine, Brendan, who was actually one of my readers last night. He reached out to me on Instagram, so I don't count it technically as a listener question, but he had an audition that he had to put on tape. And I think he said like he was either dying or like he was being murdered. It was one of those scenes where there was like so much action and screaming and things like that. And they are so hard to put on tape. You all know that it is hard. And the bummer of it is that casting directors are going to have different tastes and what they want, and they don't always tell you what that is. So my advice is two things. First of all, you should put it on tape the way you want to put it on tape. And my instinct says to me that as an actor, you want to go all out. So the first take, because it's usually easier to do it for your first take, especially for these self-tapes. And I think even the first time you go in for the audition, because they can always pull you back, they can't push you forward, right? Or they won't believe they will be able to push you forward, right? Because what you give them is what they think that's it. That's all you can give them. So go in there and have the bloodiest, most murderous scene of your life. And if it's a self-tape or even live tape, you want to prepare or record a second tape that is your close-up. So let's say you are on set and you are being murdered. You still have to stay, this is such a silly conversation, I love it. You still have to stay and have a certain stillness so that the camera doesn't lose you in your close-up. And you have to not quite be as loud and move as much so that they can get clean sound instead of you blowing out the mic, right? And so they might be booming you instead of having you mic'd in that moment. And so you give the casting director the choice. So if you're sending in a self-tape, give them both choices, and then they will show the director the one that they prefer to show. And then if that director is like, well, I really like that subtle performance, but I really wish they had just gone for it, the casting director will have the other tape to be like, well, actually, they did a second take. Let me show it to you, because then they did do it all out. Another thing is, always give them two choices. Always. Even if they're like, just submit one take, it'll be fine. You want to do it two ways. You want to do it the way that you're pretty sure they're going to cast it and shoot it on the day. That's the way they're probably going to want it. And then you want to shoot it and make the complete opposite choice. So let's say you are playing this character that is being, let's just stay on the murder theme, because that seems to be our theme for today, murder. So let's say you're being accused of murdering this woman, right? So play it guilty and then play it innocent and send them both takes. Because even if the description says that you are guilty, maybe you're a sociopath, and so the take where you're playing it where you're innocent is going to be like, oh, the director is going to go, oh, that's what I want. I want him to be fooling everyone around him and having that kind of like, that kind of charm or whatever it is that you decide to do in your audition. So send them the complete opposite. Whatever the obvious is, play the complete opposite. Go crazy. See what happens in your acting. And you don't have to necessarily do it 100% for, because it may not make sense, but you'll be amazed at what you'll find as an actor, like little moments when you just go completely the other way, and you might go, oh shoot, you know what? Maybe this character's being sarcastic in this moment, and you're like, oh shoot, I didn't even see that before. And it can open your eyes. So that's it, guys. That's all for today. You can email me questions at hollywoodactorsguide@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Break a leg out there, and remember, you are not alone.